Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of JKLMedia. We're talking about the Peripheral, and I'm here with my two lovely and talented co-hosts, Lou.
Hello.
Hi, Lou.
Hello.
And Jesse,
Hey.
rival hockey nuts. We're going to be talking about the third and fourth episode of the Peripheral, Haptic Drift, and Jackpot. And I have been told already that Jesse has enjoyed these two episodes much more than the first two. If that is correct, I don't want to be speaking for you, but
Yes, I did. I had mentioned last time that I was not sold on the first two, but willing to stick around because it's always, whether you like something or not, it's always fun talking to them. But these two episodes were much better. I still have questions, and I still don't know if all the storylines work for me, and we'll have to see how they connect. But I remember last time I mentioned that I wasn't a fan of her brother, but I liked him a lot more this episode, these two episodes. I enjoy the present and some of the future, but still confused on the Charisse Newland character. Don't quite get, and I don't understand the conflict we're trying to solve. I get that we're having interesting stories. I like that Wilf and Flynne seem to be having an affection to each other, but is it just that drift? Or is it something more? I don't know. I liked seeing the background of Wilf, and I don't know how his sister fits in.
Aelita, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't quite know, and I had to look like, have we seen Aelita? Is it a character we
Yes.
know?
She was
So,
in the first episode. She's the one
okay,
that recruited Burton
okay,
and took out the woman's eye and all that stuff.
okay,
That's
yeah,
Aelita.
okay, good. So I did not understand that, but yes,
Okay.
overall, I'm much happier, and so we're halfway there, and I'm engaged, and I think that the modern day real-time villain is really well done. And I made the note that Cordell, the start of episode 3 is, wow, that is as a good a beginning as you can have.
Yeah, definitely. We'll
Mhm.
definitely talk about Corbell and his involvement. I understand why you're confused about Charisse because they haven't outlined that yet. But do you understand what she does?
No, I don't.
Okay. They did mention it, but it hasn't really been reinforced. But she is the head of a research institute.
Okay.
Okay, so she's researching things. And they've mentioned it, but again, it's not like they're hammering it in. So that might be good to keep in mind moving
Okay.
forward. And they have also outlined the hierarchy that's been left in place after the jackpot, which is very ironically named, that there is a definite class differentiation in London, at least, with the kinds of people there. I love that we see Wilf and Aelita as children in this episode, and we see how difficult it is in London at that time. And that is the middle in between the near future and the far future, that it's like, what is it, 2075 or something like that. And we're in 2030 something in the near future and 2090, 3000, somewhere in there in the far future. We do get to see a range of time and what has happened over that time, which I really appreciate the fact that they're showing some backstory that's actually front story, if that makes sense. It's before our present times or after our present time. And you said you like Burton more. I think it's great that we get more about Burton and what his deal is. We didn't get the backstory on Corbell in the third episode, but we did get some interaction between Burton and Corbell. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and we'll get that more, but that scene when Carrot and Stick, that's when I really like, I think
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
That conversation between the two of them is fantastic. I'm sorry, it does look like we get that opening in episode 3. I wasn't sure,
I
but
thought it was either 3 or 4. I know it was how they
yeah,
started because I was a little, and we're gonna have Lou talk in a minute, I promise. But I was a little confused. Okay, in fact, I had to go backwards where when they cut to him swimming naked in his pool, I
yeah,
was like, I was waiting for there to say 10 years later, or
yeah.
they didn't. So I, after the fact, figured out that was a flashback to because the young guy ends up being his older,
Jasper,
yeah,
right.
nephew. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we talk about Corbell Pickett, who owned a car dealership in the past. He apparently did a lot of things and he wants to move up in the world. So he takes out a group of people that have been influential in his town. And it just happens to be a group of bikers. What did you guys, I know you guys liked that scene, but what's your take on Corbell overall?
Lou?
He's a interesting character, and on my first viewing, and I'm assuming Jesse's probably come on the same wavelength as this is. Okay, this guy's bad, but what's he really got to do with this whole other storyline that's going on with the Flynn family? And it's I'm trying to get a handle on why he's being featured so prominently in these episodes, and it does get answered fairly quickly. I do believe that they find out that the Flynns find out that Corbell's been offered a contract to kill them, and that's very interesting. That sets up the great scene with Burton and Corbell at the diner or roadhouse, and where they're out on the back porch, they're eating and they're talking about carrot and stick and that. So I thought that whole scene played out really well. And then we get a little, at the same time, we get more in-depth understanding of exactly what the haptics are doing or are used for, the Burton's unit has. So I thought that scene was especially well done. It's interesting though that with Corbell, his persona for the earlier episodes and most of the beginning of this third episode is, okay, this guy is doing this all on his own. But you quickly see that in that swimming pool scene, his wife is pretty perceptive as well. And I guess it's true what they say, behind every great man stands a even greater woman. Still, if I was an initial viewer, I'd still be trying to work out, like, what exactly is his part in the story beyond this contract. I do think that these two episodes really get into the characters a lot more, especially Flynn and Burton. And their relationship as brother and sister is really believable. Like, they're constantly sniping at each other. They're short with each other. Yet underneath it all, there's this layer of affection for the two of them. And I really like that as well. The other thing that I wanted to mention about the haptics, because haptic drift could stand for a couple of things. It could be referring to Burton, or it could be referring to the connection that Flynn and Wilfred make in the future, where they're looking through each other's eye cameras, I guess you could say, or whatever. There's this kind of quantum entanglement of feelings, which you can see that she's attracted to him, but then you realize that whether it's inadvertent or deliberate, that he is using that connection to influence her. And we like to think that Wilfred's a stand-up guy, but everything he's done so far has been a little shaky, a little dubious as to his motives. But yeah, I wish they would have put some of the brother care the family dynamics a little more in the first two episodes than they did, where they decided to do it in the third and fourth. The show has got a lot to the show has a lot of background to set up. As I was mentioning Jesse before we started this morning, we're trying to come to grips with the future present, which is as close as the world that we're familiar with, and then you've got the future London, which is totally out there visually with all those Olympic type statues and whatnot. So, as Karen has in her wallpaper, and you're
Yeah.
wondering, like, okay, so why are they showing these big figures in the cityscape line? And I still wasn't clear, but I think it's because they're disguising the carbon
Yeah.
um
The air cleaners.
air cleaner, carbon scrubbers.
Yep.
So Yeah, so there's a lot going on, and there's new characters being introduced as well. But I'll stop at this point because I don't know if we want to cover a little bit more of the characters that were established in the previous two episodes before we get into the newer characters in our discussion.
Yeah. So you said you liked that first Corbell bit. So what about the rest of it where he's peeing in the pool and all
Yeah,
that
it
other
just shows
stuff?
he's a cocky,
Yeah.
cocky guy.
And
Pun
I,
intended.
yeah,
Mhm.
I love his wife, that they're partners.
Yep.
And that was a great scene. It's my pool, and she takes her feet out of the pool.
Yep.
So, and it was reminding me of there is a dye you can put in your pool that if someone does, it shows, and then or you could just put the sign to warn people, right? And
Yeah.
maybe they won't call your bluff.
Yeah. Just to interject quickly, I just think they just show that the wife just wasn't like an ornament or a trophy.
Yeah.
No,
That she's
no,
actually a character, like she's got some motive.
and she was like she acknowledged his time in Havana with just that's good, have fun. And then I was telling Lou that I'd never watched House of Cards, and Linda wanted to rewatch it, and so I'm watching it with her for the first time, and that's a very interesting dynamic. The two leads, Kevin Spacey and Robin, I think is the
Hmm.
husband and wife, Mr. and Mrs. Underwood, and their relationship is very interesting. And so I like this a lot, where she laid, here's your thoughts. Here are different things we can do. We can return the money. We can take the money and do nothing, or we can do. And that perspective, I haven't been able to connect the characters yet. And so what I'm enjoying this, when some of the people that I like, when I'm looking at them, I am spending time with the characters and enjoying their storyline more than I'm necessarily the overall storyline. Anytime Flynn and Burton are on screen together, or their friend, Connor, I really like that. The other thing that was I asked last time, like I was expecting, why wouldn't their friends for that many millions of dollars betray them? Not only were they Marines together, but they have that emotional connection
Yeah.
of that link. And I didn't understand that during the first two episodes.
Hmm.
So now that I see that a little bit more, but I don't know yet what they want Flynn to do in the future.
Right.
I'm very frustrated about that. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's what's bothering me, is that what is the MacGuffin, right?
Right.
And
I
I don't have that yet. And I don't
yeah.
know if it's because I haven't been paying enough attention, or if they're still trying to show us that.
Yeah, this is the thing that you get on the second viewing, and I don't think that you're wrong because I felt the same way. But when I see it the second time, like the first scene between Wilf and Aelita when she's a little girl,
Yeah.
that lays out what she's all about.
Yep.
Now, what the other people are about is, you're right, that's still opaque, but at least
Now,
we know that motivation of her character.
acting Wilf, is that the
No,
first time we see her when they're going to be adopted?
no, the first time we see
Okay.
him is he's sitting on that park bench,
Okay.
like adult Wilf, and then that
Okay.
little girl comes up to him, and you're going, "Who's this?" And then we
Okay.
realize that this is what Alita looked like as a child, and they have a conversation about he's trying to find her, and she's gonna do something. And if you watch that scene again, that's the first scene of the first episode, I believe. It'll at least you'll give you context for what she's about, but it's so easy to forget that because you're like, well, all this technology is being shown at the same time, and you're, whoa, what's going on here, and blah blah blah. But she's laid out there. Then we'll get into it, I guess, when we start talking about the fourth episode, Jackpot. But I'll leave it at that as to what the
Okay.
motivations of the various parties are for now.
And I was a little, maybe if you guys don't mind, can you summarize the jackpot for me? That was a little confusing. Yeah.
That's what happened in order to cause this apocalypse. And it wasn't
Okay.
just one thing. And the term jackpot is ironic, as in
Mhm.
everything came together
Yeah.
and that won the jackpot.
Yeah.
So they had a pandemic, they
Power
had
failure.
power failure. Yeah, someone hacked into the power grid
Yeah.
and power failure, a big power failure, terrorism, and then finally
Pandemic. Yeah. And terrorism.
after all that, there was a nuclear attack by some group that is what caused the actual death of half the population, maybe more, something like that. So it's all these things came together to make this happen.
I think they're kind of in a nuclear winter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Which is why they're clean in the air.
But why does when they're out with whatever these robot constables are, why does everything look clean? And is that because that's a virtual reality? Or is it just because only parts of it they've cleaned up part of it, and then if you go outside
you're on the right
city.
track.
Okay.
Yeah, you're on the right track.
Okay.
They showed a hint of it.
Okay.
In one of these episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and the constable, what do they call them?
Metro.
The analogs.
Yeah, and I did pick that up this time, that this is, I don't know how often it is, but you are, instead of getting on an airplane, a plane, train, or automobile to travel, you upload yourself into this receptacle, this robot, this android, and that's what you do. And because I thought that was interesting that he lied, but looks like my ex-wife, and that was, I should have done this, and she was unhappy, and there was this, so I was like, oh, okay, this is, you don't transport like in Star Trek,
your physical.
You just move your mental thing into this other body.
And we've already been shown that they can feel the emotions while they're in the body. They can feel sensations while they're in that body.
Yeah.
So it is literally like you're going there. And I think that's a convenience that was born from this apocalypse, because they probably can't get from place to place very easily. So I enjoyed that scene. I like that he thinks on his feet.
Yes.
Because that definitely was not in his mind. He had no idea that her analog was not registered legally. I did like that. I thought it was weird that the constable does finally let them go, but I think it was more a case of, okay, you're going to talk this to death, just go.
Yeah.
But I like seeing how they're used in many different ways, because in these two episodes, we see them used several different ways. She has jumped into that body several times. We see the constables, which have no face. They're just white-faced. We see that Wilf's quote-unquote mother has an Aelita substitution. And we also see that Charisse has used them in several places to do her bidding and to find things out. And that she also has a haptic, which I think is interesting too.
Now, what is the haptic?
She has a thing in her eye.
Oh, the connection.
Remember that she can see. And that's some kind of haptic. I don't know what kind it is, but it's definitely anytime you see someone seeing through someone's eyes or a feeling, that's always what they call it.
And is that that's what they did to him in that first episode where they took out his eye and put in the other one?
Yep. That eye. Well, and they also had to use that eye to get into the room, that it was an eye recognition thing. And of course that's gone now. His body is gone.
Yeah.
Burton.
Yeah. And you have to remember that those bodies are robots, so they don't need the same haptics as regular people do.
Their whole body is a haptic.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
All you have to do is connect with someone else who has the hardware.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also, like you guys mentioned, I love seeing more backstory between Burton and his Marine buddies. I also like her calling them jarheads, getting on his back about it.
Yeah.
And him really proving to Corbell that he's not safe. He asks him, do you feel safe here? And you can tell that Corbell feels like he's invincible, that no one's going to go against him until his sniper buddy shoots the glass. And I get the feeling no matter where he was, that sniper could have gotten to him.
Yeah.
That's definitely what they're trying to convey.
Yep.
And that was such a great scene, right? That I'm going to talk about this carrot and the stick. And one of the things that I'm enjoying about this is because the future is communicating with the past, you don't have money problems because they can tell you, oh, buy this stock or do whatever or
Sure.
whatever they need to do, right, to get the money.
Right.
So I can give you $200,000 a blank. I can't remember if it was a week or a month.
I think it's a week.
Yeah, and so you don't do. And I'm going to have to know the stick, right? And because that's not a very good stick. And then when he points his finger and that glass explodes, you're almost like, he has superpower? And then he's the sniper.
Yeah.
And then the next one goes in your head.
Yep.
And so he could have just as easy killed him right then and there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we know he already wants to do it.
Yeah, but
from the conversation he has with Flynn.
But he was like, no, I'm going to be smart. And one of the things I like is one of the things that I remember my friend Tom Zoller said that the mistake people make often in his mind is like Fantastic Four. Sue Storm is a scientist, the same as Reed Reach, but just not as smart. He says, if you're better, you would make her good at marketing or really good at something else so that she is not equal in the same science or same field, but actually just as brilliant in
a different field.
And so Flynn is brilliant at video games and doing sims, but he is just as smart in tactics and in building teams and strategy in the real world. So they complement each other, makes this, I think, really compelling.
Yeah, because Flynn is naive in a large part too.
She's not world smart, not street smart.
Yeah, she's not ruthless enough for the situation that she's in. Like she tells her best friend everything.
Yeah, and as he said, you don't get empathy bonus points in real. Yeah. That also is compassion is not a weakness; it's a superpower, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes,
but when someone's hunting you down with a gun, compassion is definitely not going to
at the bottom of the list.
It
goes to the bottom of the pile.
Very much.
So it is. So
let me ask you a question real quick about that scene. I think, and this is just my opinion, that Burton didn't have to offer a dime to him, but that's his way of seeing whether he's going to take the job and take his money at the same time, or whether he is susceptible to whatever comes down the pike for him. And the fact that Corbell doesn't buy into it, but he still gives him the money after he gives that speech is, I think Burton's a stand-up guy, but he's also reminding him weekly, look, I'll give you this money, but if you step out of line, the next thing that happens is you're dead.
Yeah, but it also shows, as tactically smart as Burton is, he's not crime smart because he doesn't understand the psychology of Corbell at all, because Corbell is a guy that's amassed power over the years, and when he sees something that catches his eye, he's going to go after it. And the fact that Burton can pay him $200,000 a week is just making him says, like, where is he getting this money from? Whatever he's doing, I want a piece of this action, or I want to take
he's
over
opening
this action.
a huge can of worms.
Yeah, so that's an interesting blind spot that Burton has.
And we can see that Burton is concerned about someone finding out what's going on, because he gets on Flynn's case for telling Billy Ann all the deets about what's going on. I think that Billy Ann normally would keep that a secret, but as we see later on, Jasper is coerced into trying to find out things, and I think he's going to do his best to get it out of Billy Ann. I think sometimes when things are happening to you like that, like what's happening to Flynn, there's a compulsion to tell someone else about it, to get it off your shoulders. If someone shares that information, that you feel like some of that burden is lifted from you. And it gives this catharsis when you tell someone about it. I think it's a huge mistake, personally. If I had a secret like that, I don't know that I would tell anyone about it. I definitely wouldn't tell Sean about it. But then she's not married. So I don't know that she understands the dynamic of a marriage. Yeah, what do you think about Billy Ann? We haven't seen a lot about her, but do you think she and Jasper have it's an interesting relationship in my eyes, that she is with the nephew of the town megalomaniac, and Flynn has no compunction about telling her all this stuff. So what do you guys think about Billy Ann, at least so far? And it doesn't have to be a long conversation about it, but
I like her. I think it's interesting that I love her friendship, the idea that she's going to trust her. The nephew, he's not very bright.
no kidding.
And it made me nervous when they open the bag and they see it's money.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't lie.
Billy Ann wears the pants in that relationship.
Yes, she does.
Oh,
Because
yes.
she says, don't take any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I loved.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was
And
great.
yeah, and he's looking at the money, he's talking about it, and then Cordell ends up giving him.
Not giving him.
Yeah. And I did that kind of thing where, no, you can't take it back. You've accepted it.
Yeah. And it shows his naivete that he says, look, I'm not going to do your bidding. You can have your money. He buys into it right away.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to do this for you because I took the money.
Well,
Yeah.
he's seen what happens if you cross him. So,
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
dumbass, though. Jasper is a dumbass for sure.
Yeah.
That would be my first thing is, what do you want me to do for that money? Because he knows his uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Billy Ann
go ahead.
Baker, she's as Lou Grant always said, she's got spunk, and I hate spunk,
Yes.
but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't hate spunk. I like her. She's comedy gold because you would just love to see her in a scene with Corbell, because even though she's smart and she's got spunk, I think she knows when she steps into the lion den how to modify her behavior. But I still would like to see that scene. If that's upcoming or not, we'll have to see. But I just think that she's able to externalize the hopes and dreams of other characters. So in a way, she's not really a true character so far that we've seen, because she's been the window into Flynn's secret desire to be hooked up with the sheriff that's getting married, and she's also an eye into Jasper that we don't need as much, because it's been pretty well established by this point that he's not the smartest cog in the machine by any stretch of the imagination. But the actor does a great job of giving that character vitality, and she makes scenes pop. I think that normally would be, again, if she was like just a country bumpkin kind of wife, but instead she's got some street smarts that I really enjoy seeing when she's on the screen.
And I think she has them where Flynn doesn't. And so they make an opposites attract almost pair.
Yeah, salt and pepper.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
I really do like her, and the fact that you can tell she hates his uncle.
Yep.
And I'm guessing that she knows him quite well, because she's married to his nephew, which means they probably do holidays together and things like that.
Right.
And I really do appreciate that she lays down the law in that house. She's told Jasper, you can't help him with drugs. I don't want you around him that often. And if she was handed that money, she would definitely say, what are you wanting in return?
Yeah.
So, Karen, here's a question for you. What do you think she sees in Jasper then that makes a married couple? Because that's what I struggle with.
I don't know. Maybe someone that won't challenge her, to be honest. And it's a very small town.
Yeah, there's that. I think the only thing I can come up with is that she sees in him the potential for what he could be if Corbell wasn't in the picture.
Right.
At heart, he would be a good guy if he was with the right group of people.
He'd be a goofy dumbass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. So that's my read on it. But
and she's okay with him. And I'm guessing he's good at other things.
Let's hope.
because she has mentioned
Yeah.
sex in the past.
There's always that.
Yeah, and I'm assuming they hooked up in high school, and
Yeah.
there's been
Yeah.
and I'm guessing she broke up with him. That's just me putting
Yeah.
that on
Yeah. And
that,
he
you
probably
know.
makes
Sure.
her feel special.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can tell he loves her
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
just from that interaction they have in the car, and that she is definitely, she knows what he is.
Yeah.
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 So I think that he's safe for her. That's a big thing, is for a woman to feel safe.
Because on
And
the surface, I think she and Burton would make a better couple.
right?
But
They would.
Yeah, they would be. I agree.
But
Yeah.
I'll have to say this. You don't get involved with your best friend's brother, because if that goes bad,
Mhm.
Yeah.
then
that's
you
true.
still have to see him every once. So there's always that kind of
Small town problems.
hesitation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To do anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
so we've talked about, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think we should start getting into Charisse.
Yes,
and I love
that
the
was gonna
actor
be my
'cause
next.
She's so fantastic in
She is.
Blind Manor, and you've got to see that series, Jesse. She
Okay.
plays a totally different character.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I also, and also I want to talk about Lev. Like, I
Yeah.
don't leave. I like, he seems like the villain almost. And I do like the idea that, Flynn, you keep me in a box when I'm
Mhm.
not there, and I have to play with the kids.
Yep.
Those are the moments that I love. And
Yeah.
the whole, it's just very confusing when, like, he's in that club and they made Wilf wear a blindfold. I don't understand the dynamics yet of this future and who the power dynamics and everything. It doesn't, unlike 12 Monkeys, we were very clear in the future what they were trying to do.
Right.
They were the good guys. They were trying to stop this plague. Here, I don't know yet what they're trying to do. So
And
please,
they're not
question-
telling you yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
They-
So you're not
please-
supposed to know.
Yeah. The best
Okay.
way I can frame it is because of everything that the survivors have come up through the Jackpot, they're all and we have this group of people that we're dealing with. They're all like the new proletariat, or whatever we want to call it. Like they're at the top of the food chain. They all have their own motives, and they're all trying to do whatever it is they want to do without the other parties knowing about it. And there's this interesting power dynamic between the two groups, the RI and are they called plebes? Or I can't remember.
Yeah, plebes.
Plebes, and then the Metro, which is the
And
police
crypts.
force. Yeah, and the police force. So you got these three forces all bumping heads against each other, and there's like this uneasy alliance between the three of them, like a Cold War, but they're all under the surface, except for the Metro, I guess you could say. They're just trying to maintain discipline because of everything they've gone through, and the way the world is so decimated that everything's become really regimented. So because they're afraid of repeating or exacerbating conditions as they are. I think that's the best way to view these three parties right now, because the show, I don't know how the book is structured, but it seems intentionally opaque, and that's probably another, I don't know if I want to call it a failing, but it's a creative choice that makes it difficult for the average viewer to lock onto or latch onto when you're watching this series. In a book, you can get away with that stuff because people in a book reading are generally already invested in that genre, and they're used to these kind of things, and they're actually intrigued by that. But in a TV show like this, it's a tougher sell. And I think it's another one of those creative choices that I guess they decided to hew close to the books, but it doesn't translate that well to television, I don't think.
Yeah, especially seeing Jesse is still confused by some things, and he is someone who is very savvy when it comes to genre television, right? And I'm not saying that you're dumb, or that is not what I'm saying.
No, in fact, you're actually
It's a source-
complimenting me.
It's a
Yes.
source
Saying
material.
that this is something
Yeah.
that normally, as we talked about with Farscape or other things, we'll see things, and by me not connecting it, I take that as a compliment, right? That
Definitely.
yeah, exactly.
You've
yeah.
learned how to watch genre TV over the
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
this still
Yeah.
is baffling you.
And I think it's emblematic of William Gibson's writing in general.
It is.
He writes like this specifically keeping you off balance. And it's one thing if you're a reader to enjoy that kind of thing, but as a TV viewer, I think it's another thing.
I think it's
I don't think you have to,
effective in books,
yeah,
actually,
yeah. I
Yeah,
don't
to
think
keep you engaged.
I know you don't want to dumb down material for viewing, but you have to make it also palatable in a certain way. And I do think that the way maybe the story is structured in the books, because I haven't read it's a trilogy, right? The Jackpot trilogy.
Yeah, the Jackpot
I haven't
trilogy.
read the
There's only
books.
2 yet, though.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
I think the third one's coming out soon.
It's coming out. Yeah.
Yeah. Interestingly, the second book is if Hillary Clinton had won the election.
Yep.
So that's got me intrigued to want to
Yeah.
read it.
And if we go back to Station 11, I was feeling the same way
Yeah.
4 or 5 episodes in. I was like, why am I watching this? And someone said, hang with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when I did, and then when we did our rewatch, I was feeling similar to like you two. Yeah, I get it. And then when it sticks the landing and
Yeah.
connects everything together, I go, wow, that
Right.
was really nice. So that's what I'm hoping this will do, even though this is a one and done. Like they
Right.
aren't getting a second season. So I hope they wrapped it enough that we get this ending. Because as we talk about just recently on Babylon 5 podcast, sometimes shows get canceled, and if either because they didn't know or a little bit of arrogance or cockiness on the showrunner, I'm going to leave it as a cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know we're going to come back, and then when you don't, versus, and I realize this is problematic now, but one of the things Josh Whedon always said is, I always wrapped up a season of Buffy that if it was going to end, we would have a solid ending, yet I left enough strings out that when we came back, I knew where we wanted to go. That is the
Right.
right way to do this.
Whether
At
we
least from
like
my
him or
mind.
not, I still
Yeah.
appreciate his works.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Or you take the Farscape approach and say, screw it. I'm just telling the story the way I want to tell it. And if you don't
Yeah.
renew
Exactly.
it, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the case here, to be honest. He is confident in his story. And like Lou said, it's unfolding like a book would, where it's trying to draw you in, but yet it seems slow and you're not putting all the pieces together.
Yeah. But it's problematic when you don't identify who the antagonists are in your story.
Right.
It's this
Yeah.
general feeling that in the future you don't trust anybody. Like you want to trust Wilf, but his actions don't appear kosher upon reflection. Especially when Burton and Flynn have that conversation about haptic drift and whatnot, and you get these weird false feelings that you normally wouldn't.
And he knows that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's easy to see everyone as the bad guy in this. And it's already giving us that there's more than one bad guy.
Yeah.
And
so the present bad guy is much more clearly defined than the future
yes,
bad guys.
as the bad guy. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's true. I don't have to predict the future to tell you that Corbell is the present day bad guy, but there's some other stuff definitely that happens. We were going to talk about Charisse.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to that anyway. I know you said you're not sure about her, but she's definitely not the good guy. It's easily missed, but that party in the first episode was the Research Institute having a party celebrating some breakthrough that they made. And it's not really clear what it is, but that was definitely what was going on there. And she's the head, the big honcho when it comes to the Research Institute, RI. And yes, they're billed as trying to keep things habitable for people. They came up with the implants so that you can withstand the conditions outside. They have done a lot more with haptics. They also came up with a lot of the technology behind the robot-y things, androids things, whatever, and the stubs. They are doing a lot of stuff there.
The stubs are what they call the android bodies?
No, it's
No.
what they call Flynn. She's
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they have contributed to this time travel convenience.
Okay.
So they've come up with quantum tunneling, I believe.
Okay.
Exactly. So they have to worry about all the stuff that results from that, which is having stubs, remnants from those past timelines.
And is there alternate timelines? Is that's one of the things they've talked about, right?
Yes.
Is there,
Yes.
okay.
So-
So when you change
But
this,
so far, all the changes that are being made happen in the past,
Okay.
and they don't affect the future that we're in. That's going to persist no matter what
Right.
these future people do in the past. But in the past, all these alternate future timelines will spring up because of what they're doing. So that's confusing because you're going, why are they manipulating the past if it's not going to affect what they're doing in the future?
Yeah.
Because one of the things, like talking about Charisse, I just want to say, I think that the actor, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
I just can't get over the difference between this character and keep coming back to Bly Manor. That character, it's just two totally different sides of the same coin, I guess you could say. And in both, she's fantastic. And one of the interesting and one of the confusing things, I think maybe, Jesse, for me would be like you mentioned, Lev. He seems to be very in control and command of that world. But as soon as him and Charisse come together, she just puts him in his place, like
She
bam.
does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so then
Yeah.
you're going, whoa, is he not as powerful as I thought he was?
Yeah, he tries to
Yeah.
be cool,
And his
cool and
wife,
calm.
his
and-
wife is working against him too. Apparently, she's dancing with Wilf and trying to get all this information out of him, and he's spying on her. And they're going, "There's nobody really good in the future, is there?"
And
Yeah,
I was a little confused on how the future and the past could be doing the computer, hacking
That was,
each other.
yeah, that just
I
doesn't
was a
make any
little
sense.
confused.
don't worry about that.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense at all to me
No,
either.
don't worry
And,
about that.
and the future hacker kept changing sometimes he was speaking in an accent, and sometimes he was speaking a
Yeah.
foreign language.
Yeah,
That was a little odd for me.
yeah,
It depends on what's happening.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want people to understand what he's saying.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah.
But yeah, so you're not, but once again, if we forget just storylines and scenes, the drinking tea and having the bees attack,
Mhm.
I don't really understand why just telling a simple story, but I guess loose lips sink ships, and so we're
Well,
going to have,
She let
Yeah.
Aelita know about the stubs.
and so,
Yeah, and that caused a break-in, which is what's leading to Charisse scrambling.
uh-huh.
And we don't know why, really. That's for a
Yeah.
future episode.
Yeah, so that was, but whether I understand why or not, it was so well acted
Yep.
and so well done. And she is so like, I have children, then you should understand how you would do anything to protect. Yeah, this is
She doesn't use that as a sympathetic thing at all.
like, yeah, that's
It's
that's
proven
why
my point.
yeah. So
That's pretty cold-blooded, right?
It was
Yeah.
very cold-blooded. Yeah.
She'd only need one bee to kill me
Yeah.
because I am highly allergic. But
Mhm.
that was savage,
Yeah.
that scene that she has with her.
Mhm.
It makes me feel bad, really bad. And she's what I would call like the standard kind of supervillain
Yes.
role, right? Where on one end of things you see her one way, and then you can see her the complete opposite way. Because she is definitely putting on a show for the public.
Right.
That she's head of this benevolent society that does research and all that.
Benevolent
And then exactly.
Yeah.
And because she has contributed to the way of life of all these people, that they can live and breathe outdoors. So they look at the Research Institute as a good and perfect thing, but she is definitely not in it for that. She's not in it for the good stuff.
And I don't know how entertaining this is for our listeners, but basically all this is me asking questions. But it was a little weird, the timing of, you show Wilf and Aelita when they were scavenging, right?
Right.
But they show that after the fact when they're being adopted. You would
Mhm.
seem
Yeah.
like you would have switched that.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
weren't adopted. They were
Yeah.
snatched and given to this woman, and she paid or something for
Right.
them. So she set up that whole thing, or the agency that did it set it up
Okay.
as a hologram to steal those people. And I think they were trying to show that the society is about doing what you can. And I guess that woman needed children or a child. And so that's why they snatched them up. And you notice that she is not concerned about Wilf at all.
Yep.
She was in it for Aelita. And the only reason Aelita decided to stay, because she knows that Aelita is street smart and can get away if she wants to.
Yeah.
The only reason she stays is so Wilf can have a better life.
And do we know why she wanted the children yet? Or is it just because?
Not yet.
No.
Okay. Okay.
No, we just know that she did. And she definitely loved Aelita. We can see that already.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
She is an interesting character as well, but we didn't get to see her very much.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think what to talk about. Because there's
I'm sorry I'm all over the place.
No,
that's all right.
fine. Just as a FYI, interesting fact, Aelita's name means truth in Greek. So spreading light like a shining star. So that's just something to chew on.
Something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about what's going on with Flynn. You can tell that the interface, the haptic device, is causing some trouble, and her eyes are getting blown out, and I'm talking about red with blood in it, having seizures, having muscle issues. And I don't know that I would be like Burton, because he is opening them up to a lot of stuff by taking her to the clinic. But I can see where he loves her and doesn't want this to affect her. And she knows immediately they're just going to tell me not to use it anymore, which is exactly what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the tension that the doctor at the clinic is Tommy's fiance.
Yep.
And she's in love with Tommy. So there's that kind of, and a small town thing, she's going to have to interact with her every once in a while. So what kinds of things are you thinking about when you see all that happening with Flynn?
Jesse, go first.
Yeah.
I thought it's interesting, and it shows that he loves his sister, and he loves her more than he does money, more he does whatever they're trying to do. He loves them. So Tommy is the detective, the deputy, right? Yeah. And we got nothing else about the invisible cars or anything this time.
Nope.
But I like that character. I feel like which by the Constantine Constable is a fun little thought. So I liked that where he comes and says, I'm your friend. I'm here as your friend. But they don't trust him, because they know they're in a pile of stuff, right? They're and they know not everything, but they know that if you peel into this very bad, if even a little bit of depth, whatever they're doing is not on the up and up. But I like the doctor. I thought it was good. Reminds me of the joke, my arm hurts when I do this. Then don't do that.
Don't do that.
And so I did. And I think also one of the things that I really appreciated is Burton he may have misled, but he was more true than not. This is a sim, this is a headset, this is from a kind of company, and this is cutting edge technology. And okay, let me see what I can do.
True.
Yeah, all true. Let me look and see if there's any studies about doing this.
Yeah, and I think he thought he got off scot-free until she said, send me the information.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's in a bit of a pickle.
And then I liked that this is very much Flynn's personality of, I'm fine now. Like I had a little problem, but now I'm okay.
Right.
Because
like
I get the feeling she is addicted to this, to a certain degree, of this being in this future and being in this world. I think it's her mystery. And also I think there is a physical, almost attraction / dependency of wanting to be in that world. So yeah, also very
she
interesting.
Can definitely see the benefits of continuing to go there.
Yeah.
Plus she's got that haptic drift with Wilf.
Yep.
Yeah. It is interesting and very cool when someone else gets in the headset, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they go into the same vessel. which I thought was, who the hell are you? And they can immediately tell what's going on. But yeah, I liked the idea of, with smart of him, probably not for the long term to go to the doctor, but as a brother, he had to.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's interesting that what I think's happening is she's physically manifesting the damages that she's been receiving while she's in the android body. And I'm assuming that it's because of quantum tunneling, which leads into quantum entanglement. She's been zapped by that sonic gun. I think it's a sonic gun, a couple of times as well. So that's got to shake up your organs, I would think as well. There's definitely some bleed over. I think they should probably institute better filters in the technology that they're using so that she doesn't get like the full impact of, if it hits a certain level, you want to avoid clipping in sound, so you put a leveler on it. They should be doing something like that, is what I'm thinking. The other thing that strikes me during these scenes with like everything is small town, it's so intertwined. Like you got the doctor's the fiance, and her best friend is married to the nephew of the crook, and you're going, wow, this really is small town stuff going on. And it also struck me is that, because this is in North Carolina, and they do have a certain accent, but it sounds like Burton has much more of an accent than Flynn does. Now, whether that's just the actor's ability to do those accents differs or whatnot, but I always find it a little weird how Burton's much more good old country boy twang, whereas Flynn's a little more like city girl twang. I guess that's the best way I can put it. So
a little more refined.
A little more refined. So there's that interesting dynamic as well.
I think that kind of reinforces the fact that she's smarter.
Oh,
I don't know that it's a conscious decision.
Yeah.
Of the creators of the show.
But one of my favorite moments from the episodes, and they've set this up well, because you're wondering why, like they show this Connor character as this, what was he? Is he a paraplegic, or he's not paralyzed, triple amputee. That you're wondering, this is an interesting choice, but why are they going here? And then it should have been obvious from the first episode when Flynn went into that other body, but he really perked up and he says, they have bodies there?
Yep.
So when he gets into her body, that was just great.
Looking at his hands and
yeah. So that was pretty cool. So yeah,
how much do you like Connor?
Yeah, it's obvious. It's easy to feel sympathetic for him because he's paid the price out of the unit more than anybody else, I guess you could say. So, and he seems to be pretty smart.
His sense of humor over the whole thing. I love that conversation between him and Burton outside of the what do you call it, 3D printer.
Yeah, so give you a hand, give you a leg, arm up.
You got a leg up on all of us. I love his whole interaction, and he gives him the finger at the end of it. I like their dynamic, and we know that Burton cares for him a great deal, because not only did he go to his house and try to wake him up out of his stupor in that earlier episode, tried to shake him into not drinking as much, but now he's giving him a job, giving him a purpose.
Yeah.
And he didn't drop him as a friend after all this happened. It's easy enough when someone's having this many troubles to push them away a little bit, because you don't want to have to deal with all of that. And I love that he's not only kept him as a friend, but they're very close. And it really does show how intertwined their lives are, all these guys. And I love that he helps him with it's not a wheelchair, but his little motorcycle thing. And I really love their dynamic. And Connor's a great character for me.
Yeah, like you need a hand there. Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then like
too soon?
Yeah, that was nice. But if you remember, at least the way I remember it, Burton was going, we can't trust him. And Flynn is the one that pushed him and reminded him that we're supposed to be this thing. And so I think he reminded him, and that's why Burton is going, yeah, I need to be there for my friend. And I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, they did show that. Yeah, once he is reminded.
Yeah, and he's the symbol of Flynn's argument to Burton that yes, empathy in real life doesn't get paid off, but generally, but when you do take the chance, the reward that you get is often worth it. And I think Connor is that symbol of that reward. I like that as well.
Absolutely.
The other
Yeah.
thing wanted to just to go back to Charisse. I like the fact that she, even though she's ruthless, she does have affection for her employees a little bit. Like she resurrects Miles as a android and says doesn't want him to be too subservient, make him 20% disagreeable. I thought that was pretty. I thought
Hmm.
that was a nice little touch as
Oh
well.
yeah, all that stuff is funny.
Yeah, that was
I
good. And
love
those
that.
androids are pretty cool. Like those
They are.
triangle faces that you can see through is like the gaps between them is interesting. Yeah, and again, the production values are off the chart. I, I I found that when they showed the jackpot, I didn't find that those symbols really. I thought that was just added confusion to what should have been. Like, why were these symbols out in the cemetery? And why were these symbols? You look at the symbol and it's representing one of the jackpot events, but I'm looking at it and it says, how am I supposed to get out of this symbol that this
Right.
is showing us the electrical grid collapse? Or how am I supposed to get out of this signal that there was a pandemic? That one worked a little bit because of the tree thing, but in general, those symbols just were confusing, I think, from my perspective, anyhow. But I think
Yeah.
that's a big scene that if I don't know, Jesse, if you're watching the show with subtitles on, that scene in the cemetery, I'm going to do it myself, is I'm going to rewatch it with the subtitles on because they're talking about all these different things and they named what the various groups are doing as well, the RI and the plebes and that. So I think that would help with some understanding of what the series is doing.
Especially after talking about it,
Yeah.
because now you might be able to put a little more context to it.
Yeah. You're muted.
Unmute, Jesse. I am going to rewatch that first scene from the episode to see the discussion. And I will watch that because it seemed, once again, I don't understand why it's at a cemetery where they're having this discussion. It doesn't make any sense to me yet. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Just as a side note, we got Ossian and Ash as well, Lev's associates there. I think that they're interesting characters. Ash was perceptive enough to get that was not Flynn in the body. She found out right away. And as you said, Ossian, he goes back and forth between speaking his language and speaking English. And you can tell that he and Ash are close associates as well as friends in a way. I think that whole area with Lev and who he has working for him and what's going on there is fascinating. And we also heard that Lev has been experimenting with the past, that his whole family was killed in the past, or at least in Flynn's future or whatever, present. What is he trying to do there? And as Lou has said, it doesn't carry to his timeline. Whenever you go back in the past and do something, you've changed it, but your timeline persists. So was he trying to do something? Was he experimenting with what happens if this happens? So there's a lot of stuff going on there. What is the Research Institute up to? Aelita, what's going on with Aelita? Where is Wilf? Just a whole lot of stuff. And we have Corbell as well. Corbell he's pretty transparent. There's that. So I think we've covered these two episodes fairly well. Are there any other things you guys
I do
want to
want to hear your thoughts on why do you think Lev killed his family in the present timeline that Flynn had found out about? I was trying to think like changing the past won't affect him.
How long did they know that though?
Maybe he doesn't know that. Somebody
Right.
was explaining, Wilford explained it to her. Wasn't it Wilford that drew the diagram? Who
Yeah.
drew that? So he must know that what he does and changes in the past is not going to affect his
Well, he
timeline.
knows
So
now that it doesn't. But when did they learn that?
yeah, that wasn't
So when he
established.
did
I
it,
just assumed because Wilford knew it that Liv must know about it as well.
now though, or at least in his present, he knows that. Did Lev know that when he went back and killed his family, or did he think it might change something?
I'm not sure I understand
Right.
that question because
There's a time that they learned that.
and that was a
There
couple
were
of
stubs
episodes
and
ago.
he told her about it a couple episodes ago. But when Lev changed that part of the past, did he know it wasn't going to affect his future? That was in the past when he did that. So was it
that scene where
before he knew?
Was that scene when Wilfred was blindfolded? Are you saying that happened in the past, in the future past kind of thing, or
Well,
before the
we
show
don't know
started?
when he killed his family. It could have
Well,
been 20 years.
to me, he made it sound like he had just done it.
Oh, no, it's more than that ago.
Okay.
That's something that happened quite a few years before this future timeline.
Okay. So it's again, even though I've watched the series my second time, I still was struggling with why he did that.
I think he was testing what happens.
Yeah.
That it was before they knew for sure that their timeline persisted.
Okay.
At least that's my thought, because he
All right.
definitely he wouldn't have done it otherwise, right?
I'll have to rewatch that scene because I didn't get they
I
didn't
don't think
say
they
this was like
say it.
this wasn't a flashback. It felt like it was
No.
right after the events of what had happened in the episode that we were watching.
No,
So,
it was before all this.
okay. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
once again, this is one of the things that like I not understand what that means. I'm still a little confused on this how time travel works on this and what it's going on. So I'm glad to know that you are feeling the same way and you've seen it twice.
Yeah, I have to say that I'm trying to think of a way to say this. Lou has said some things that have me realizing that he's not remembering everything with what happens.
Right.
All right.
I'm not.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Because there are definitely things going on that have more context to them in later episodes.
Okay.
Yeah, now we have 3 different perspectives. Someone that knows what's coming, someone who's trying to remember what's coming, and someone who has no idea what's coming.
I love it.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, so that was my last thing. So we're going to be up to episodes 5 and 6.
Correct.
What about Bob? And fuck you and eat shit.
Yep, I love that.
And I have to say that my favorite character in the series is introduced in these 2 episodes. So
we are getting a new character?
Oh, yes.
Wow, we're halfway through and we already have tons.
This one is quite memorable. So that makes quite the impression. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll enjoy it.
Okay.
It's a character that has a lot of character.
Yes.
I'll say that.
A lot of flair.
Okay.
Yes, a lot. And we definitely have a lot more of Charisse. And you will get some answers, but not all of them in the next 2 episodes.
Good. All right. That sounds perfect. Good. Cool.
All right. Next time, like Lou said, we're going to talk about the next 2 episodes, episode 5 and 6. And after that, we only have one more go around with 7 and 8. And I'm really happy that you got into it a little bit more. I'll give a little behind the scenes. I actually emailed these 2 chuckleheads last night and asked them if they wanted to continue, because after watching episodes 3 and 4, I was like, I don't know. Is Jesse really digging this? Is he really going to want to talk about it tomorrow? And they both emphatically said yes. So I'm very happy about that. And I'm glad we're continuing this. And I think it's cool that it's something that is not easily accessible to a lot of people. A lot of people would not love this show, but that we get to talk about it and talk about things that maybe others would miss.
Yeah, I think it was, like I said, I loved these better than the first 2. And the character moments make it good enough for me, right? That there is enough there that I enjoy that, okay, I'm along for the ride, right?
Right.
And will they stick the landing? Will I go like I did with Station 11 going, there we go. It's, I mean, not everything can be Watchmen, where you are incredibly entertained, yet at the same time, a lot of questions.
Right.
So, yeah, no, this is one of the things that I talked about this last time. I'm seeing shows that I had missed and I've not seen before. So this is pretty cool to see.
Awesome. So you can reach us at jklb5podcast@gmail.com. I'm at Oliveria on various social medias, and I have a blog called alleystuff.com, which has a lot of links on the landing page. And let's talk about Lou.
What would you like to know? No,
Where can people find you?
you can find us obviously on YouTube at Lose Reviews, where you'll find our JKL Media podcasts, where we've been doing one-offs on books, movies, music, Midnight Mass, Devs, Station 11, as Jesse mentioned, the English, a very under the radar show that I think a lot of people should really check out if you like love stories. Let's put it that way. Identity Crisis, Dark Matter, Tragically Hip, 12 Monkeys, Watchmen, We Are the World, Barbie, V for Vendetta, The Green Mile, Quester Tapes, and now The Peripheral. And our flagship show is the Babylon 5 podcast. We just finished episode 20 of season 4, and we're going to do the final episode of season 4 next week. So check that out. And I also have the Stephen King and the Writers podcast. And finally, on Twitter, you can find me at Lou W. Sitzma, Sytsma.
And you, Jesse?
So I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter, aka X. You can hear me talk music on Set Listing Bruce, where I talk to people from around the world about their love of music. On Perfectly Good podcast, we just finished the G's and we are starting the H's as we go through every John Hyatt song in alphabetical order. So that's always been a lot of fun. And during this new series of Doctor Who, with the new Doctor, Charles and I are doing Next Stop Everywhere every week, where we talk about the latest version of the Doctor. And it's been Russell T Davies is back running the show, and the episode we just talked about where the Stephen Moffat actually wrote, and we think that is the best combination. When RTD is showrunner, Stephen Moffat is the writer, and it was boom. It was a very good episode.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
And I'm going to ban the use of X.
Okay. All right.
Because I hate that, and I'm hoping
Okay.
it changes back again.
All right.
So that's all our places where you can reach us, and we're happy to be talking about things with you guys and happy to get your feedback. And this is the bright part of my week, to be honest, talking to my good friends, Jesse and Lou. And I hope that translates to you guys, our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it for episodes 3 and 4 of The Peripheral, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Awesome.
And scene.
And scene.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.